Now let's see this question. Test whether the following schedules are conflict equivalent or not. So whenever any schedule is given like this, I'll just tell you. So they'll clearly explain you what they mean by S1, what they mean by S2, and what does each operation represent. I'm just explaining you, but in exam generally they explain you. So whenever I write R1, it means that there is a transaction 1 from which this read action is taken. And whenever I write R2, this is the read action by transaction 2 on data item B, right? So whenever you have subscript 1, it means that these actions are from transaction 1, and this subscript 2 means these actions are from transaction 2, and within the bracket whenever you see any this character like this alphabet, it means that there is a data item on which they are working on. Okay, now if you can directly do it this way, you can do it. Otherwise, the simplest or easier method is without having any ambiguity, just try to write the schedule in a tabular form. If I try to write the schedule in a tabular form, then S1 is going to look like this. S1 is going to have two transactions, transaction T1, transaction T2, and from transaction T1 it is going to have first read, okay, and then from this one it is going to have read on B, read on B, and then from 1 it is write on A, and then from 2 it is write on B. And again you have one more schedule. In this schedule you are going to have two transactions. Let's say one is T1 and other is T2, and from T1 see initially it is read on B by transaction 2, and then read on A by transaction 1, and then write on B on transaction 2, and then write on A by transaction 1. Got it? So this is how you can write it. Then you can see where are the conflicting actions and you can compare them appropriately, or if you can do it directly on that, it is up to you. Okay, now let's see this. If you look at the conflicting actions, okay, so this entire set is working on A and this entire set is working on B. Now you can clearly see that there is nothing in common, right? Which means there is no data item in common between T1 and T2. Therefore, there will be no conflict at all. So if there has to be a conflict, there has to be a data item, and one of the operations from each one has to be right. So there is no conflicting actions here, and here also if you observe this, there are no conflicting actions. Anyway, since both the transactions are same, there are no conflicting actions, right? So whenever two transactions are not having any conflicting actions, you can execute them in any order. There will be no problems at all. Whatever order you execute them, you are going to get the same output as if they have been executed one after the other. Okay, fine. Let's look at the next example here. Right, so if you observe this, now we have two schedules here. So one schedule is having two transactions and the other schedule is having two transactions. Now one is okay, I'll just write it in the tabular form so that you'll understand whether it is there conflict equivalent or not. Let us say schedule 1. Now in schedule 1, two transactions are there, T1 and T2. Now if you look at schedule 1, one operation is R1 of A, right, and then W1 of A. Why? Since ones are there, I am writing it on the one side, okay, and then on the other side the R2 of A is there and W2 of A, and then again here there is R1 of B and W1 of B, and on the other side there is R2 of B and then there is W2 of B, right? Okay, now the other schedule is, let's call it S2. So it is having two transactions again, because both the schedules are formed from the same transactions. Otherwise we don't really compare them. If the schedules are not formed from the same transactions, or we are not going to compare them. There is no need of comparison, right? Okay, now here you get R1 of A and then W1 of A, R1 of B and then W1 of B, and here you are going to have R2 of A, W2 of A and R2 of B and W2 of B, right? Okay, now let's see what are the conflicting actions, and depending on the conflicting actions, let's compare whether they are in the same order here or not. Now if you see this, there is a conflict between, see, both of them are accessing A only. Here there is read and here there is write, so there is conflict between these two, right, in which one is happening first. Here also there is conflict between these two, R1 and W1 on A, and one is happening first, no problem, right? And now if you look at this again, here there is a conflicting action, right? So W1 and R2. Now again W1 and R2 is again here. Again the direction is same, W1 and R2, which means one is happening first and then two next. And again W1 and W2, right? And here also W1 and W2. Both are happening in the same direction, which means first transaction 1 is happening and then transaction 2. So from this R1 RA and R2 RA, on the data item A, we are having 3 conflicting actions, and all the 3 conflicting actions in this, T1 is happening first and then T2. Here also same thing has happened, right? Now let's look at if there is any conflict between these two. So there is no conflict between these two, isn't it? And also there is no conflict between these two. See, how to test it is, if you can follow this method, take one one action here and compare with all the actions on the other side, and then take the next one and compare with all of them in the other side, and then take the next one and compare with all of them on the other side. You keep going like that, right? So this one is done, compared with all of them, no conflict. This one is done, compared with all of them, no conflict. Oh, there are 2 conflicts and I have written there, and here also I tested that the same data item, the same action is having those 2 conflicts in the same order, right? And now let me take this one and compare with all of them here. If I compare with all of them here, there is no conflict with this one because it is on A and this is on B, right? And if I compare with this, yes, there is a conflict, right? And now there is a conflict between read and write. So read has to happen first and then here. Now if you look at this way here, there is again a conflict between these two. Yes, so read has to be, this one has to happen first and then this one. Here also same thing is happening. Now one more conflict is, that is the only conflict with this, and the next one is write. So there is no conflict with this. So let's see if there is any conflict with this. Yes, now there is a conflict between these two, right? So write and then read. Now again write and then read. Yes, so there is a conflict between the same, and then write has to happen first, which means transaction 1 has to happen first and then transaction 2. And if you observe this, again the same thing, write and then write. So this one has to happen first and then this one, right? Now if you observe this, write and then write, this one has to happen first and then this one is. So all the conflicts are exactly happening in the same order. So with this one and then this one, right? Okay, now if you observe this, this is a non-serial schedule. Okay, first thing is for sure these two are conflict equivalent, right? And if you observe this, this is a non-serial schedule which is equivalent to a serial schedule. Therefore we can say that this is conflict serializable. Got it? So this schedule is conflict serializable because it is conflict equivalent to the serial schedule. Even see, for this example you have to go this way only. Even if this one would not have been given, even if this is not given, then also you would be able to figure out that using other method I will discuss later, that this one is conflict serializable and also it is conflict equivalent to this serial schedule, right? I'll tell you how to find it out later. Okay, fine.